Okay, picture this. You're driving, maybe 4 hours straight, coming back from UC Berkeley. You're tired, ready to just crash. You pull up to your house, 1423 Maple Street in Fresno. You're thinking about your bed, maybe those leftover tamales in the fridge. But then you stop. You get out of the car and you just freeze. There's a for sale sign jammed into the lawn. The windows bare. And sitting there on the porch are 3 black trash bags. Lumped over. Like they got kicked out too. This isn't hypothetical. This actually happened to a 21-year-old student named Yuri. Her heart just sinks, right? She grabs her phone, her hands are probably shaking, dials her dad, and his voice is just flat, like he's reading lines. "We moved, Yuri. You're an adult now, deal with it." Click. Deadline. No mom, no brother Noah answering, just silence. And her neighbor staring, with that heavy, pitying look. So in this deep dive, we're really going to unpack Yuri's story. It's hellish. Well, it's astonishing. How does someone go from feeling totally erased, literally having their life stuffed into trash bags, to building this incredible organization helping people fight eviction?
And, finding a whole new meaning for family, for home.
It's such a powerful example, isn't it, of how life can just pivot on a dime. And what happens when someone faces that kind of profound betrayal? We're going to explore that resilience, how she turned this deep personal pain into something, into a real purpose, not just for her, but for so many others.
Yeah, that first shock, seeing the sign, the bags, that was just the start. Then came that phone call. I mean, can you imagine? We moved. Deal with it.
Just brutal.
And then silence. Calls to her mom, her 17-year-old brother Noah, who she said was always glued to his phone, straight to voicemail.
Yeah.
The emotional hit was immediate, her voice cracking, panic setting in. She felt, and this is her words, 21 years old, feeling like a kid abandoned at a bus stop. And this is after years of trying so hard to make them proud, sending half her work study money home, keeping up a 3.8 GPA, juggling political science classes, a campus job.
She even called her Uncle Mark, right? And he sort of hesitantly confirms it.
Exactly. He's like, "Yuri, you didn't know they moved last week. Your dad said you should have called first. Like, it was her fault."
That feeling of being erased, it's deep. When the people you trust most just vanish, leaving your life in, like you said, disposable trash bags. The neighbor's pitying gaze just rubs salt in the wound. But what really stands out, even then, is her reaction. She didn't just crumble.
No, she didn't.
What does that initial response tell us? That she didn't immediately fall apart.
It's incredible, really. She said she didn't cry. Not yet. She just dragged those bags to her car. You can almost hear the plastic scraping on the pavement. It was this quiet, stoic thing. Like, okay, whatever's next, I face it alone. So that night, she ends up in this cheap motel off Highway 99. The kind that smells like old coffee and bleach. She just dumps the bags onto the bed. The spring's grown, and she starts sorting through, the remnants. Her winter coat, some textbooks, a high school yearbook, a really worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. And then at the bottom, this cracked picture frame from Pismo Beach, maybe 3 years before. Her mom's arm around her, dad's smiling, Noah's in the background splashing, looking like a happy family. She said she wanted to smash it, but she didn't. She put it on the nightstand, like a quiet accusation, she called it. And she remembers her dad always saying hard work pays off Yuri. After his long factory shifts, drilling it into her. All those sacrifices she made studying instead of going to prom. That internship at the county clerk's office, earning the Berkeley scholarship. All for this.
And this connects back to something important. You mentioned the dad's layoff 5 years earlier, how that affected his pride, right? Turned it into something sharp. And the mom, who usually smoothed things over, she was part of this too. Yeah. It really makes you ask, how much did their own financial stress, maybe their shame, drive them to do this, to cut her off so completely?
It's a really tough question. Shame can make people do desperate, irrational things, especially money shame. You try to understand the logic, but it's hard to grasp.
Yeah.
And then there's the contrast with her brother, Noah. He was their blind spot, she said. Always excused for kid stuff, skipping classes, spray painting fences. They'd just sigh, "Oh, he's finding his way." The hurt for Yuri was so clear. Why was he worth keeping and I wasn't?
That comparison must have been incredibly painful.
So she's sitting there in the motel, staring at her phone. Dark screen, no calls back, no apologies, just her dad's voice echoing, "Deal with it." And she said something just snapped, quietly though. Not loud, but final. Her thought was, if they could erase me, I could erase them too. I'd build something they could never tear down.
Yeah.
Didn't sleep that night. She just planned. And she said that was enough.
That shift right there, from feeling discarded to actively planning, that's resilience in action. It's about taking those broken pieces and deciding consciously, okay, I'm building something new now on my terms.
And the very next morning, she makes a crucial call to Professor Sarah Bennett, her political science mentor at Berkeley, someone who'd already helped her adjust. Sarah's voice, she said, was just warm, concerned. And the offer was immediate. Pack your things. You're staying with me until the dorms reopen. No hesitation. So by noon, Yuri's pulling up to Sarah's place in Berkeley. A Victorian house, maybe the paint's peeling a bit, but the porch feels welcoming. A couple of cats in the window. Sarah gives her a key to the guest room. Quilt on the bed, a huge difference from the motel's scratchy blanket. And Sarah just tells her, no time limit. Focus on your studies. The room smelled like lavender and old books. Yuri said it was the first time she felt like she could actually breathe.
It's amazing how quickly that chosen family can step in, isn't it? And provide not just, a shoulder to cry on, but actual tangible support. Sarah didn't just offer a room, she offered stability. And then there was that connection to the housing law firm, Torres and Associates.
Yeah, the internship.
Yeah, Sarah leaving that note saying, you'd be perfect. That wasn't just a suggestion. It was validating Yuri's potential right when she needed it most.
And Yuri grabbed onto that, dove right into the work that afternoon. Case law, eviction notices, tenant rights, learning about predatory landlords. She gets to Torres and Associates in Oakland, this sort of squat brick building. And Rachel Torres, the lead attorney, she spots something in Yuri right away. Rachel apparently told her, you're good with people, Yuri. And later, after seeing Yuri talk to this single mom, Maria, she said, you listen, that's rare. Yuri just threw herself into it. Within a couple of weeks, she's helping with interviews, meeting families facing eviction, single moms like Maria, seniors getting pushed out, students dealing with bad leases. Rachel really took her under her wing, shared her own background growing up in Oakland, and encouraged Yuri to channel that hurt, that hunger, into fighting for others. Meanwhile, her phone keeps buzzing, calls from her parents, from Noah, filled with, worry and demands, she said, but zero apology.
Still no apology.
None. So Yuri starts blocking their numbers. Her heart's hardening, and she finds this real sense of defiance helping other people, like this college freshman, Jamal, fighting an illegal rent increase. When the landlord actually backed down, Jamal hugged her. She said that felt like she was finally pushing back against what her family did. Then she goes to this financial aid seminar, hears about social innovation grants, and boom, an idea sparks. That night, she starts drafting a proposal for a program to help students, low-income families, fight unfair evictions. Safe haven. Rachel and Sarah helped her refine it. And get this, 2 weeks later, she gets a $20,000 grant from the university to launch it.
Wow, that's fast.
Right. They set up shop in this tiny storage room at Rachel's office. Volunteer paralegals, law students helping out. Yuri's just running ragged lectures, then racing over to review cases. But she said, each victory felt like stitching up a piece of my own heart. Her family kept trying to call, new numbers popping up, leaving voicemails. She ignored them. Then, out of the blue, a call from her old neighbor, Mrs. Len. Says there was a break-in at the old house on Maple Street. But the weird part? Mrs. Len says the intruder didn't take much, but left an envelope, addressed specifically to Yuri, from a law firm in San Diego.
Okay, now this is where it gets even more complicated.
Yeah.
Because that letter, it changed everything again, didn't it?
Totally.
Mrs. Len read it to her over the phone.
Yeah.
And the truth comes out. Yuri's grandmother, the one who died when she was 12, she'd left Yuri property in La Jolla, and it had been sold for $350,000.
$350,000.
And the sale was finalized last February, a full month before her parents just disappeared.
They knew. As her legal guardians until she turned 18, they knew all along and never said a word.
If you connect that back to the dad's layoff, the shame, you start to see this tragic, really flawed picture emerging. Desperation, maybe, but also just a massive ethical failure. They didn't just leave her. They actively hid this legacy from her, possibly saw it as their way out.
Cut her out when she didn't fit the plan. It's staggering. Yeah, my parents hadn't just abandoned me, she realized. They'd hidden a legacy meant for me. But even then, her focus, safe haven. She called the law firm, confirmed it was real, but then went straight back to work on a tenant case. The money could wait. This couldn't. Then comes this huge grant presentation. The Coleman Foundation. $250,000 potentially to take Safe Haven citywide, high stakes, and who shows up right before she's supposed to go on? Her family, insisting they need to talk, that it's urgent. Yuri just shut it down, told them firmly, not now. And apparently she went in and nailed the presentation under all that pressure. Afterwards, they end up at a coffee shop nearby. Mom's voice is trembling. Dad immediately accuses her, you're acting like a kid. And Yuri just lets him have it. I came home to my stuff in trash bags. You sold our house, left me with nothing, and I'm the kid. And she hits him with it. What about the $350,000 inheritance you never told me about?
That confrontation, wow. It forces everything out into the open, doesn't it? And it brings up that huge question. What is family after something like this? Can there be forgiveness? Is it even wanted? They admitted the shame. Dad's excuse. I didn't want your pity.
And Yuri's response was perfect.
Yeah.
It wasn't pity. It was family. Or I thought it was.
And then Noah speaks up, right? That small voice.
Yeah, Noah finally says, "They messed up, Yuri. We miss you."
That little admission from Noah, it adds another layer, doesn't it? Shows maybe the impact wasn't uniform. Maybe some shred of connection is still there, at least for him. But is it enough?
For Yuri, it wasn't. Her line was drawn, crystal clear. Family doesn't leave you on the porch. She stood up, put a $10 bill on the table for their coffee, and walked out. Said her heart was pounding, but she felt whole for the first time in a long time. And literally the next morning, her phone rings. It's Mr. Coleman. Safe Haven got the grant, the full $250,000, plus an extra $40,000 for operations they hadn't even asked for. She's standing in Sarah's kitchen, phone in her hand, just this huge grin splitting her face.
What a moment. Validation on so many levels.
Things moved fast after that. Media attention, local ABC station, a profile piece in the Chronicle calling Safe Haven a beacon for housing justice. Suddenly, their email inboxes just flooded. Cases, volunteers wanting to help, her parents. They stopped calling. The silence, she said, felt louder now than all their previous calls and demands. Then the $350,000 inheritance lands in her bank account, a safety net she never expected. She starts looking into Stanford law, public interest programs, thinking about a Safe Haven scholarship fund eventually.
Her whole journey just powerfully illustrates that your worth isn't tied to people who discard you. You know, it comes from inside, from your purpose, from the connections you choose to build and nurture. Her reflection really says it all. I used to think I defined me by them. Now I see I'm more than their choices.
Yeah.
And seeing her chosen family, Rachel and Sarah, raising a glass to chosen family, and Sarah adding, "And to you, Yuri," that's the affirmation that matters.
And Safe Haven just kept growing. 6 months later, they had their own office space in Oakland. Modest, but real. Real desks, a waiting area, a sign outside, "You're not alone." They'd helped over 120 families by then, staff of 5, volunteers coming from Berkeley, SF State. There was even a national CNN segment in the works. Yuri described sometimes just walking through Sproul Plaza at Berkeley, watching the students, and realizing how far she'd come. From that porch, that motel, that moment I thought I'd lost everything. But I hadn't, she realized. I'd found myself, a version who didn't need their validation to stand tall. Sarah and Rachel became her constants, her real home, her parents. They just faded. Their silence was final. She said she didn't hate them anymore, but she didn't need anything from them either. No closure needed. It's just such a testament, Yuri's story, to the fact that even when your entire foundation crumbles, you can build something new, something stronger, maybe even more meaningful. I mean, her life was literally tossed out like garbage. But she picked up those pieces and built not just a life, but a lifeline for others.
It really forces us all to ask, what does home actually mean? Is it the house you grew up in, the family you were born into? Or is it something you actively create? Through your work, your mission, the people who choose you back, like Yuri found, for her, home became purpose.
Absolutely. Her journey is a powerful reminder that our value isn't determined by those who walk away. It's measured by what we build in the space they leave behind. So maybe take a second to think about that in your own life. What are you building? What's your definition of home, of family, of purpose?